This is Suzanne Wagner. Thank you for joining me. I'm doing my personal quote and blog for the 5th of August, 2022. My quote for today: seek the power deep within. Let go until your ego is thin. Let go of what you think you are, and remember that you were born from a star. Life will confuse and complicate. Life will try to tear down all things we create. It has a plan that is beyond what we can know, but that plan has somewhere amazing for us to go. All we have to do is allow that twisting path to not turn us into a psychopath. We have to keep our heart open and wide. We must learn to embrace rather than hide. We are here to gain a footing and learn from our mistakes. We are here to dive deep into crystal clear lakes. Experiences are the best gift we can offer. It was never how much we could put in the coffer. And my blog for today. When I went to my friend David Barber's funeral, one of the people that we hung out with was a gentleman named Robert Chase, who was one of the crew guys. And Robert was a total wild thing when I was a dancer. In fact, he was such a wild thing that me as a goody two shoes, poly pure heart, little ballerina bunhead, I had a tendency to kind of step away because the crew was usually a pretty wild bunch. And, they had a wild life. They were up all night and had to put sets together and, load in and load out. And, they were a wild and crazy group. And there was a lot of drinking and a lot of drugs going on. And that was definitely not my cup of tea. So Robert was one of those people that, while I liked, I kind of kept a distance from. But over the years, Robert had matured and mellowed. And it's funny how life will teach us what we need to learn, sometimes by pummeling us. And if I look at him, I could see that his life had really pummeled him quite a bit. And, life takes a toll on all of us, and all of us will age, and all of us are going to get old, and all of us are going to get gray, and all of us are going to get wrinkles. And, I always remember something one of my teachers said. He said, at some point we're all going to be too old, too stupid, and too sick to be able to be highly effective, right? But then there are the occasional people that suddenly actually improve even though their body is collapsing underneath them. And Robert Chase was one of those. Like, his soul had learned how to transcend the physical pain and suffering that he had imposed on his body and the consequences that his body was not going to let him forget. And somehow had turned into this really wonderful, sweet, kind, generous, loving person. And so a few years ago, I saw him and it was like, wow, this guy has really changed. He's really grown. He's really evolved. And then when I saw him with the funeral for my friend David Barber, again, just a really lovely soul that was kind of knowing he was on his way out. And he asked me to do a reading on him. And there's nothing worse than doing a reading on a friend that is dying. And I try to point people in the direction that they can get the most out of the rest of their life, because it was obvious to him his body was collapsing underneath him. It was obvious to him that he was falling apart. And it was even more shocking to learn that he wasn't much older than me. And it's funny how everyone has their own time where they're supposed to be exiting. So I knew he was dying, and, my friend Marianne knew he was dying, and we were both like, whoa, this person is loosely tethered to their body, and you could feel that the soul was reaching into the other place. So he died yesterday in the morning, and I knew he was in the hospital for COVID, and I knew that he then got pneumonia, and he was in such a weakened state. That's the perfect storm for COVID, as we all know at this point, having weathered 3 years of COVID. So, I was trying to reach him. I was trying to call him. I was trying to text him. And starting about 2 days ago, he was not texting back, which kind of gave me that heads up that something was pretty up. And but I had spoken to him a couple of times before, like 4 days ago and 5 days ago and stuff like that, which I'm really glad, because in the process of that, I said to him, we're all spiritual family. We've all been doing this dance forever. And I appreciate you in my life, and I love you, and I care about you, and I care about your well being. And I want you to know that you're loved, and I want you to know that there are a lot of people that are sending a lot of energy and caring for you. And, he really appreciated that. Because I think that there are many moments in this life that he has probably felt very alone because of some of his choices and his actions that we all do at different points in time. So today in my blog, I wanted to give a poetry tribute to Mr. Robert Chase, who is now on the other side and having a grand time, I am sure, with all of our other friends that have passed to the other side. And so this is a celebration and a tribute to Robert Chase. Another soul has passed away, another from the COVID melee. A soul who lived a complicated and wild life. A soul who lived at times on the edge of a knife. Over the years, he became gentle and sweet, a true reflection that karma can be beat. He showed that through the suffering and pains, a soul can soften and make incredible gains. His life is a triumph because of what he learned, and this rest is one that he deeply earned. I know his soul now flies free. He was ready, willing, and has embraced what could be. I am glad that I told him over the last few conversations that we were spiritual family regardless of complications. We walk with many in this lifetime of change. We touch souls that are a part of our home range. That does not mean that it is easy at times, but spiritual family causes inside bells to chime. We recognize souls even when they are hidden behind shields of dysfunction, and we find each other because of magnetic conjunction. I recognized his soul when I was 21, but he was on a path that I could not run. So I watched from a safe distance, waiting for a path of least resistance. It took over 30 years for his soul to move him through his fears. And that moment when his soul finally came around was one of great joy and designed to astound. Arrogance and attitude were replaced with compassion and care. His body was ravaged, but his soul was bright like a solar flare. His true essence emerged from the wreckage of time. His bad boy self had changed on a dime. Now he is free to become that light inside, and that body will no longer allow his soul to hide behind the dysfunction, karma, suffering, and pain. He has freed himself from this mortal chain. I celebrate a man who became caring and kind. I celebrate a man who did not let circumstances define what he could accomplish regardless of how heavy the karmic load. He took a long, arduous, and circuitous road, but in the end, he was someone who deeply cared and gave back all he could and managed to share what was deeply within his heart. And now he can embrace a brave and bold new start. Love you, Robert.